Stephen, welcome again to to an ITA conference, and you're so used to lecture for the ITA, and it's always a pleasure to have you lecturing. Stephen has been a translator for some 15 years at least, working from Hebrew, French, and Russian into English, both American and British. He specializes in legal and financial material as well as official documents. He's half American, half French, and has lived in Israel for some 30 years, which makes something like 150%, right, of a person. His education is eclectic. BA in Russian Studies from the University of California at Santa Cruz, went to law school at the University of Oregon. He has teaching credentials in French from Portland State College and an MBA from Leicester University in the UK. Quite impressive. He also has been teaching English at the Braude School for Engineering in Israel for 25 years. He says, I have the privilege and curse of being able to live in 3 different countries without belonging 100% to any of them. And today we have the privilege to have him here talking about writing translation, content post, the why and how. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First of all, everybody hears me properly. It's very annoying if you can't hear properly. I imagine most of you have seen content posts on LinkedIn, possibly in Facebook, and you might have even thought maybe I could write some of that, but it's a bit intimidating because writing posts is something which involves a creative act, an act of initiative, exposing yourself, and to a certain degree, it's scary to write something for the public. There's no, in your name, not as a translator. So today I want to talk about why you should do it and how you can make this a routine, to take out the intimidation till it becomes a pleasure. It becomes part of what you really enjoy in life, which takes some time, but it does happen. I'm going to talk about my background very briefly, why you should do it, how to write posts. I'm not going to talk about what to write because that's individual, but the whole process of writing as a routine, as a sort of a non-special element, and finally some tips to write better posts. What is my background? First of all, I think it's very important for a writer to be a reader. You have to have seen and loved good language. You have to appreciate a nice text. I can't explain it, and if you have it, you have it, and it doesn't make a difference whether it's written by someone else or by you. When it sounds good, it has to give you pleasure. Otherwise, there's no purpose in writing. I've been in an English lecture, which means I teach writing, and I supposedly know the rules of English. I've been a translator. Now, a translator is a writer. We don't determine the content, but in fact, we write. Every time you translate, you write a text. And unless you're doing a back translation or special requirement, you're trying to produce the best possible text with the same content, with some exceptions. Finally, most curiously to me, I've been writing posts for 11 years now. I'm approaching my 500th first draft, according to my numbering system, and I'm really surprised about it too. I write once a week, something like 49 weeks a year. Well, there's always some events here and there which stops it. And writing has become a part of my life, which is very weird because I'm not the writer of the family. My father was a journalist, my brother wrote a book, and I am a much better speaker than I am writer. But you see how life works out. First of all, why should you think about writing posts? Marketing. We need to distinguish advertising from marketing. Advertising, as I wrote to somebody, is like a Snicker bar of business. You take it and you offer something and you hope to get a boost of business, and it costs money and it's a very short-term result. Nothing wrong with it. Marketing is creating a reputation. The person reading your post may have no need for translation now or week or in 6 months. But if you can create a recognition for your name, that person's a translator, you have an advantage over someone who may be just as good, but that person doesn't have a name. And if you want to see how effective it is, think about diapers that even before you became a parent, you may have not even cared about a diaper, but you heard enough commercials so you knew the firms. It's the same thing with professionals. Money. In some areas, writing posts involves direct money. If you talk about fashion, cosmetics, all those wonderful things, and you have 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 followers, you can earn money. That's not my particular motivation, but there are bloggers who earn money, and they earn a lot of money. Or if you have a popular cat. Fame. Everybody likes likes. It seems to be universal. It's sort of nice when people say, I liked your post. Makes us feel good. What makes for fame? Well, I don't know. That's sort of what you expect. If I get 5 people who I really enjoyed it, I'm very happy. 5 people really enjoyed it. I'm not looking at numbers. If I was trying to make some money, then I'd be more worried about numbers. So I think it feels good when people say, I learned something or whatever. Fame is nice. Share knowledge. One of the most basic human mechanisms of pleasure is when we teach somebody. We're not doing it for the money, and we're not even doing to get credit. When someone says, wow, now I understand how to do it. Now I understand my mistakes. And someone says, thank you for it. And it's one person. You say, oh, it was worth the effort. And that's true whether we're a parent or a writer, is that sense that when we share our knowledge, somehow we become bigger. I can't explain that one, but it's a very universal element. Finally, we have personal satisfaction. Writing is a form of self-expression, as is knitting, sculpture, painting, drawing. It's a form of self-expression. And when you write, you take a bit of your soul and you put it out there and you express it. And as such, there is a pleasure in the process of writing, or there can be, is that we've taken something that was buried and we brought it out. And it's good that we brought it out. It doesn't have to be a solution. It could be a question. It could be a doubt, but we've expressed it, and that gives us satisfaction. So if we look at why to write a post, any or all of these can apply for any given post. We may do something for pure marketing purposes, or we may do it because we want to share knowledge, or we might be in the middle of a personal crisis and we need to just get it out of ourselves and express it, and all are legitimate. And any given post can have a different set of circumstances. I personally find that I write posts for different purposes, depending on that week and how I feel. Why not me? Well, I can't write a post. You don't need. Okay. My sort of litmus test is I tell translators is Google your name. If nothing shows up to your name, you need to do something. The days of depending on agencies for customers are ending very quickly, and you have to be out there. And if you're not out there for any reasons except that you had a tax debt or you were in criminal court, you have a marketing problem. Now, advertising costs money. Writing posts doesn't cost money. It costs time. It doesn't cost money. So the test, I would say, is Google yourself. If you're not out there, writing posts is a very, very effective way of getting yourself out there for free, technically speaking. You're not a great writer. Well, you don't have to be a great writer. In fact, sometimes help not to be a great writer. You need to be an effective writer, a communicative writer. But you don't have to be a great writer. Writing for people who aren't great readers. They're not going to appreciate literature, so it's wasted on them. But they do expect and want to see something that is appropriate, interesting, informative, organized. And on that level, the more you write, the better you become at writing. It's a very mechanical skill. In other words, your early posts may be less than wonderful, but if you do it regularly, you get better. something like, I guess, weight training. You have nothing to say. Well, there's that wonderful quote, "In the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed are kings." Everybody has something to say. If you've got more than 2 years of translation experience, you have something to say. You can tell new people, don't make this mistake. You have something to tell them. If you've been around, if you're an expert in a certain field, if you solve the technical problem, after you spend 10 hours trying to solve the problem, you have something to say. Everybody has something to say. Now, you may not appreciate it, but there are a hell of a lot of people who don't know what you know, some aspect of what you don't know. You don't have time. Time is a very peculiar measure here, because if your child, your grandchild says, I want to go to the beach, somehow most of us find some time to go to the beach. Okay, we didn't have time, but we decided that taking your loved one to the beach was important, so you found time. If you make it important to write a post, you find time. I will talk about time in a later slide, more or less, but time is a matter of choice. It is not a matter of you don't have time. You have priorities with your time, but you have time. No discipline. There is an old joke about the two priests who were discussing whether sex is pleasure or work, and they asked the rabbi and said, "Rabbi, it's pleasure." He says, "How do you know?" "If it was work, my wife would have the maid do it." Which is more or less how I feel about writing. I don't work on Saturdays, not for religious reasons, because I'm entitled to a day off on Saturday, and I write my post on Saturday morning. It is something I look forward to on Saturday morning. So it's not discipline. It's something which, oh, good, I can sleep late on Saturday morning and write my post, because that's the time I have allotted for it. And it doesn't require discipline because I want to do it. Does it require discipline to enjoy a good glass of wine? I don't think it does. So it doesn't really require discipline in the sense you're doing something you don't want to do. You create a routine. Routines are easy. So there are reasons not to write posts, but these are not good reasons. Okay, how do you start? You really first need to decide why you're writing. If you're going through a personal crisis and you want to write a blog, that's great. It's a legitimate use of it. It's a personal blog. If you're going for professional and you want to talk about translation, that's a professional blog, a whole nother cup of tea here. You have to decide why you're writing this, the major reason why you're writing it, because that will determine, obviously, who your audiences are. Personally, I write to audiences plural. I think I can make audience plural. I chose to. The two audiences I write to are my potential customers and fellow translators. Those are my two audiences. I don't write always the same post for both of them, but I try to combine. I have a theme. The theme should be narrow enough that somebody knows what you do, but not too narrow, because if it's too narrow, you run out of material after 2 months or 3 months. Okay, I said everything. I picked, and it gives me a good variety: translation, business, language, and culture, which in my book, all are related to translation somehow or another. They all show me that I know something about the subject. Finally, you have to pick a name for your blog. It's important, has to be easy to find, should tell you what you're going to say, which I didn't do, but you should probably pick a name that will be eye-catching one way or the other. And by the way, they're not easy to find because people have got some of the better, more obvious ones. Okay, this is where I take a step back and say, I'm not an expert. Someone helped me pick a site many years ago, so I have no idea what's going on now. But if you want to pick a site, make sure it's easy to use, that you're not struggling with the mechanics of actually how to write this thing, how to put it, how to change it. If you're finding it not intuitive, find another site. There's no need to suffer more in life than you have to. You're going to be adding graphics and links. Make sure it's easy and you understand how to add graphics and links. Most sites are, but again, everybody's brain works differently, and sometimes a little tricky for some people. How do I do this? And I would finally say, if you want to pick a site and you want to ask the experts, they'll tell you which sites are better, which sites are worse, because that's changing. It's very, very quickly. And ask the people who really know more, who really know about that. I want to spend more time on the writing process, because I'm not telling you how to publicize. I'm telling you I'm giving you my feed on how to make writing a easy process, a routine. The first part is an idea. And where do you get ideas? A conversation with a customer, an email, a conversation in the family, walking down the street and seeing that's weird, something in translation that bothered you, something in translation you spent 30 minutes trying to figure out how to do it. An idea is a little spark, something that gets your brain a little thinking. It's generally not too big. It's just a tiny little spark, which seems a little interesting. From there, you need to develop it. You need to fan the spark and see if it creates a fire. And my technique is thinking. I do this on my walks. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. Is I think about 3 subtopics, 3 ways, 3 reasons, 3 results, some order. How can I take my idea and expand it? How can I make it have really something to say about it? And as I develop it, sometimes I get really excited about the writing, and sometimes they say, that's boring, and I go find another idea. Because if I'm not interested, it's not going to come out good. Now, we need to separate in writing the what I want to say from the how I want to say it. After you've had the idea, and you've sort of broken it down into paragraphs or sections, then you write a first draft. Your first draft should be written at a time when you're not tired, when you are most alert. And in my case, that's first thing in the morning. In my brother's case, that was he wrote a book between midnight and 3 o'clock in the morning every night, okay? There's no particular logic or reason, but good writing, as translators we know, is best done when we are most alert. And it's not good to try to write this after you've translated 8 hours. Your brain is not at your best. It's not the way brains work. So you need to pick a time where that is what you're going to do. You tell your other family members to leave me alone. I'm writing for an hour and a half or an hour. Just you tell them that. And after a while, they accept the fact that you're writing at this time and to be left alone. Because the first draft has to be done uninterrupted at your best. You never post a first draft in translation or in post. You just don't do it. It's the wrong idea. I write on Saturday, and on Sunday, in the morning, I do a QA process. Now, my QA process, I'll explain my process, which is what I have learned to do. And everybody is a little different this way. First of all, I read it from the first paragraph all the way to the end. And then I read it from the last paragraph all back to the first paragraph. Then if I'm a little concerned, I actually print it black and white and to see maybe what's going on. Then I do a spell check. Always important to do a spell check at this stage. And I change the font to what I want. Then I move it to the blog page. So far it's in Word, but I move it to the blog page, arrange what has to be arranged, pictures, graphics, read it through, make sure it's smooth, and then I go take a walk for an hour and do something else. And then I come back and I read it again. And believe me, when I come back and read it again, I find some things that can be improved. Like all writing processes, you could take this to as long as you want, but I have other things in life beside my post. So I find that this is more than sufficient to prepare a decent quality of a post, okay? And the QA is very important because when I get to criticism, you'll understand when you do a post, everybody can see what you wrote. And if you make a grammar mistakes, people are really rude. They think, you consider yourself a writer, and they'll hit you. Come on, but so you should do your best. Okay, time. Planning. To me, the writing is a brainstorming. So I take a walk every morning, and on Wednesday or Thursday, I start thinking, what do I want to write this week? And during my walk, I just sort of think it through. And I let my brain go every direction until I find the spark. And then maybe the next day I'll develop it. And I find that I do it much better when I'm taking a walk. My peculiar way of doing it, but it allows my brain to wander freely. And if I need to write something down when I get home, I'll write it down. It's not a bad idea, not that I do it, to actually keep a journal of ideas. That's probably a good idea, but again, I never seem to do that. So planning time is when you can allow your brain to just roam and find something to write about. The writing time, as I wrote, should be done when you are your best writer. Whether that's at 1 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, doesn't make any difference, or maybe noon after you get up. No, nobody really does that, I think. It should be, that's when you should write. Posting day is a very interesting element. The experts tell you should post on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Monday is a disastrous day to post. I post on Sunday, mainly because it's convenient for me. And I figure maybe some people are at home and they're tired of being with their children, and they'll read my posts on Sunday evening. I have no proof of this, but that's how I sort of think about it. The experts probably can tell you what I've read is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, as people have the most time to read posts. But again, depends your schedule. Total time. A post of 800 to 1,200 words takes from idea to posting 4 to 6 hours. Now, that sounds like a lot of time, but it's not 4 to 6 consecutive hours. It's 4 to 6 total hours. And some go smoothly. If you have to do a lot of research citations, they can take a little bit longer, but that's what a post takes. So I guess it's a marketing investment. There's no arguing about it, but it's a marketing investment which can be very comfortable and satisfying. So that's what you need to keep in mind about doing it. And by the way, this is for marketing to be successful, it has to be sustainable every week, or most every week. Okay, structure. A lot of posts on LinkedIn are points. Here's how to do it, and they just give you a bunch of points. For my personal taste, I like paragraphs because I can develop points. I'm not the MTV generation where I want to quickly read points. I write about 3 to 5 paragraphs, let's say 5 to 7 paragraphs generally, and I like to develop it properly. A very high percentage of posts that are meant for business people and the like use just very few little text, lots of points. I don't think it sinks into memory. I don't remember shopping lists that well. I think when we develop it, it enters people's memory, but again, they're both acceptable. It's how you want to write it. Length, I said, is a good post is between 700 to 1,200 words. If you write 3,000 letter posts, no one's going to read it. I'm not sure what you can say in 400 words. I'm just not quite sure how much is relevant. Depends on the subject, depending on a whole bunch of other things. But I think that's a fair assessment from some numbers I've seen from associations. Graphics. We live in a visual world. I'm not, but most people are in a visual world. I normally put a picture at the top of my post, and I sometimes put a picture into my paragraphs. What the point of the picture is to enforce the message of the general post and the specific paragraphs. I'm about graphics 2 points. I don't believe we should steal people's work. There are free web picture sites. I use Pixabay, which is a free site, reasonable, and I always give credit. Just on an ethical basis, I feel that's right. When you have pictures, please put a caption. Many people are not aware that the blind cannot read pictures. It is something that I have several blind friends who get very annoyed. Internet sites that have pictures that they can't access. So just put a small caption in there. I don't get respect for other people, and our vision is not improving anyway. I write my post where there's a link between the introduction and conclusion. If any of you have read my posts, you know there's always a bit of humor, and my titles are a little cryptic occasionally. So I like to tie things together between my introduction and conclusion, as it is one coherent writing unit. My particular form of writing, I think it's good writing. Something with your first and last paragraph have to connect, however you wish to do that. Okay, how? First and third person. I'm from the third person generation. We were taught never use first person in formal paragraphs. I'm not sure. That is no longer true. I do use first person as a contrast to third person when my experience is distinguished from general facts. I don't know, that's really a matter of style. Widen the content to reach the widest possible audience. So I don't write to freelance translators. I try to write to freelance entrepreneurs, business people. If it means I need to explain what a CAT tool is, fine, I'll say computer-aided translation. I don't want to really, for most of my posts, limit myself to translators. It doesn't seem like a very smart marketing idea. So if I could take something which is relevant to translators, but also reach through LinkedIn other business people who are really my target audience, that's better. Widen as much as possible. Think about who could benefit from this. Audience. Again, you got to think who you're writing it for. That can change. Oh, I really want to reach lawyers, or I want to reach these people. I want to reach artists. I want to reach museums. Lots of ways. Think who you could reach and try to reach them. Your voice. A post is not Shakespeare, but it's your voice. Not everybody's going to like what you read. Not everybody will care what you read. Not even, there's some people who think you're a terrible writer. It doesn't make a difference. It's your voice and your way of writing. If you are a serious, writer, there's no humor in it, that's fine. That's you. I think by 20, 30 posts, you sort of get your style of expressing yourself. This is not a translation. You're free. You can be anything you want. You can be sarcastic. I don't like sarcasm. I don't think it's a good technique, but if that's who you are, that's fine. If you want to be controversial, you want to talk about politics and annoy people, that's fine. That's your choice. It's your voice. One of the few things we have freedom in our life. Okay, publicizing. There's another lecture coming up, but who give a lot more information than I can, but just a few major points. There's no shame in publicizing yourself. If you are giving legitimate information, you're not selling, buy translation from me. That's not the purpose of it. You're saying, I'm an expert. If they don't want it, it's like you with advertising. If they don't want you, if you're not interested in advertising, you don't look at it. That's fine. Do not find a shame to find relative groups, Facebook groups, or even LinkedIn is the element. Do not be ashamed. Not be ashamed to put it on your website. There's no shame in publicizing yourself. Translators are a bit messy about that. Introduction. Before your post, say a few words why they should read your post. Are you wondering why translation is so expensive? Okay, give people curiosity why they should read. Ask a question. It will increase readership. LinkedIn is very good, first of all, because you have a very wide potential audience. And number two, they do their own SEO. In other words, every time you put something in LinkedIn, they publicize it for you. And they like posts. They don't argue about posts. People write really stupid things, oh, my nephew got a bar mitzvah today. They write some stupid things. If you can write some intelligent content, you're doing better than most people there. It's a nice way of getting your content out there to the general market and to clients you would not even be able to reach. And it's free, and on that level. I don't use Facebook for personal uses. I don't really care, but I do use Facebook for two groups, customer and industry. I try to imagine who my customers are, do searches on Facebook periodically, and try to post in their groups. Sometimes they don't let me. which is okay. Sometimes they let me, which is great. And yes, I got a job from France because I posted in the French group, and someone said, "Oh, I saw that you translate French to English." And I said, "Yes." So if how else would I have reached a student in Paris without Facebook? All right. Do not use it as these groups do not like advertising, but they may be willing to accept content articles. Okay. But mention you're a translator in the middle of it, of course. There's nothing wrong. Website. Uri helped me with this, but it's not difficult. If you have a website, to have a link with your latest post. First of all, it makes your website more dynamic, which is very good. And it makes your posts more dynamic, which is good. And why not? That's part of what you're doing. You spend 6 hours, you might as well get the longest and most benefit. Another nice element is this is long-term. You write it once, it stays around. It's incoming business, not outgoing. Okay, post-publishing. As I said, it is possible that you miss some errors. You forgot the word be, you put the word form instead of from, you made whatever. Errors occur. And believe me, the people who read the stuff will immediately catch it and say, you made a mistake on this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And some of them can be really blunt and nasty about it. Now, my immediate reaction is, yeah, let's go. You see, put a post and I'll show you, but not relevant. So instead, you need to, all I write is thank you and correct it because that's all you could do. Now, you're a little annoyed by it, but okay, you did make the error and you did miss it and you do the best you can. And on some weeks, your best you can is not as good as it could be. Criticism. If you want a lot of people reacting, you have to say often strong things. For example, I wrote a post a year ago, that people should only translate into their native language. Now you can see what a wonderful reaction I got from some people for my arrogance for criticizing people who translate into their second or third language. Well, criticism hurts, but I've learned a couple of things. I have a critic who's criticized about everything I have, but that's the way she is. So I have discussions with her. She makes a comment, I answer back. We create a dialogue. It creates interest, and interest is what I really want anyway. So it's acceptable. Criticism is a part of life. If you express a strong opinion, someone will disagree with you, and they may disagree with you in a blunt way, but blunt is culturally linked. That in some countries saying is criticism, where in other countries you have to be accused of sex crimes before it's considered terrible criticism. So, you have to realize that criticism is part of it and just accept it, deal with it, and you can say, I disagree, or ignore it. Polls, a nice way to expand is your number of people reacting is to add polls. How often a day do you look at Facebook? Something like that. First of all, I have a technical problem doing it, but I think my major problem is people do the polls and don't read the post. I think that's my impression, so I haven't been doing it. I'll withhold judgment. We'll see in a year. Personal versus business. When you write a post, you are putting something into the public domain. If you do not want the public to know about it, don't put it out there. Everyone has gone through rough times in their lives. Everyone has some elements that were not. An outsider would not understand really what was going on. Don't say it. Don't write it in a public domain if you don't really want out there. I tend to keep my personal life out of my business posts. I'm not here to share it. This is not my personal journal of what I went through. It's not what I'm writing it for. Legitimate in some cases, not in my case. And in your case, decide, is this personal or is it business? It's a business, keep them separate. Otherwise, you might have people, stepping on your privacy. Okay, summary. Post is long-term. You're not going to increase your business by 1 post, 2 posts. You may not see anything for a week, a month. But the fact is, the more posts you have out there, the more you exist on the internet, and the more available you are, and the more your name is known. And that when they see a list of names and they say, ah, I remember that name. They may not remember where they remember it, but at least your name will stick out there. To do this long term, you have to enjoy the process. You're not going to write a post every week if you hate writing. It just doesn't work that way. You have to enjoy writing as a task and expressing yourself as a release and sharing. You have to get enjoyment. If you get enjoyment, there's no time problem. It's something you choose to do for the same reason you would enjoy going to a movie, which also takes 4 hours if you think about it. Success. Success is how we define it. No, I don't have thousands of followers. And if I get 250 people reading my post, I'm pretty happy about that. It's hard for me to tell with the statistics. Success is, to me, someone writing, thank you, that really helped me. I see, I enjoy that amused me, that cheered me up. Can I join your LinkedIn network? That's success. I'm not here for the money, so I don't need huge numbers. I like to know that someone is reading what I write. That's basically how I feel about it. And it helps them, or it gives them, it gives them some knowledge that I have. So that's how I define success. If you're a fashion blogger, success is clearly numbers and how many people are paying you to sell their clothes. Individual element. And if you're getting success, I guess that feeds the enjoyment, and it also feeds the long term. Okay. Really the purpose was to give you some techniques for maintaining a sustainable blog. And that, I think, the other speaker on blog content will talk about sustainable. But here, sustainable means that something that you can maintain week in, week out, and create a marketing campaign without really investing a cent, which I think we all appreciate. And if there are any questions, I'm through.
On time and really spotless. Excellent. Are there any questions from the floor, or should I use my privilege to ask the first one?
What? You're the boss.
I'm the boss. Perfect. I wanted to reassure that. Stefan, you said that your average post is about 400, 500 words.
No, 800 to 1200.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
That's right.
800. Okay, and 6 hours of work.
6 hours from thinking the idea, organizing.
Yeah, okay,
I don't know what you want to call that work, but it's part of the process. You can't
invested time.
Invest in time, yeah.
And one thing that I probably missed or I see in a different way when you talk about success is the analyzing of the statistics. That sometimes, checking where did people react more, or what helped more people, can help you really to find a proper channel. Okay, I'll invest more time in this kind of post and less on those speaking about esoteric issues like cat tools, for example, or something like that. So
it's the problem in marketing is it's very hard to find a cause and effect relationship in marketing. In other words, why does someone pick your name out of a list of names on the ITA list? Okay. I don't think it's possible to put your foot and say marketing works. Now, if you have a sale and you have a coupon, you have a good statistical basis. Marketing is much more complex. I can tell you, for example, a lot of the LinkedIn looks do not appear on my blog server looks. In other words, they're entirely separate. What does a look mean? Did they read it? Did they didn't read it? I'm not able to adjust it. So I find that there is a very, very large amount of information, but I'm not really an expert on the statistic. And you're right, there should be an analysis, and there are probably sites which do a better analysis, but somehow that's something I have a lot of room for improvement in that area, but I'm not quite sure I'll do anything about it. That's my
yeah. I can tell you my personal experience from another field. I had a blog back in 2013 about politics in Spanish, and one post was about scars after on the date of the attack to the Jewish community in Buenos Aires on July 18th.
Wow.
It was my shortest post ever. It was 2 paragraphs and the list of victims. And every year, ever since, it's for 8.5 years, around that date in July, there's an astronomical increase of traffic for that specific post.
Would you predict, my question to you is, I realize the emotion at the time, can you predict which post will get the most reaction?
No, but seeing the graph of the statistics, and it, most of the platforms that allow to use blogs have these tools of statistics with graphics with all.
Yeah, they do.
And they do it for a reason, and probably this is the reason to make us more effective and knowing what works and what doesn't work, right?
That's probably, you're true. I think it's definitely to politics, but I have a post I wrote about 7 years ago that it keeps getting readers, and I have no idea. I can't put my foot where it's coming through. It's about words in English and what they mean by changing the preposition. Nothing really terribly earth-shattering, granted. But I thought posts were sort of, okay, this was sort of fun, but no one will read it. And I've had all these reactions, and I said, this is really, I thought this should get some reactions. Nothing happened. I find myself completely confused by public reaction, but so are people who are a lot smarter than me are often confused by what public likes and doesn't like. Statistically, you should be able to do it as a marketing tool. I'm not quite sure you can put any correlations between blogs and actual growth in marketing. There is a correlation, but causal is a bit tough. And my question to you, in your politics, how long did it take you to write? Maybe I'm a slow writer.
It was very short post, 250, 300 words at the beginning on a daily basis. It was to explain the elections on that year to foreign readers, elections in Israel, and then it became about politics and language and politics and all kind of things. So yeah, but that was my experience. And again, for me, it was important to see which ones were shared and things, because it gave me an idea of what interests potential readers more. I can focus on those more.
Yeah. I tend to compromise between what I want to read and what other people want to read, because I want to enjoy writing it. That's a very sort of it's sometimes something is very important to me and I write it because it's important to me, and it's so important to me that I don't even care if anybody reads it. That's not why I wrote that post. That post was because I needed to write that post.
That one about the attack to the community was because it was important for me. It was about my personal scars.
Exactly. I agree. Any other questions? I'll be happy if anybody wants the PowerPoint. Just let me know. Just happy to send it.
Okay. Fabian wrote a very nice compliment.
Thank you. Merci.
And so did Baka from Viviani. Okay.
As I say, if anybody anybody's considering it, think of it actually becomes fun, which is a very weird thing to say.
For translators, mainly. Fun and translation are not always on the same pot.
Oh, yes, that's very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Of course, you're invited to stay for the rest of.
I apologize, but I have to go. This is the first day of the semester, and I have to go and teach, which is really a necessary evil, as they say.
An alternative way of fun.
Yeah. So have a very good afternoon and enjoy the rest of the lectures.